the
upper
whole thing is
education and
like,
the scam it is in terms of money.
yeah. Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah, it's just the university, that whole arena and how that works and what they're trying to do. But yeah, I remember doing that and like people were talking about. I'm like, then what is the point of taking like 6 classes of accounting if you're gonna get a major and it's not gonna do anything. So that was my whole thing. I was like, okay, then you know you didn't even learn bookkeeping. They don't even teach you any of that. That's like they teach you journal entries, and that's basic of like bookkeeping, like
Well,
understanding how that works, but
it
not
is,
actually how to do bookkeeping, like
well,
to organize everything. So that was,
it's part of the basics in the beginning. And unless you've sat down and learned how to do bookkeeping by hand, using the different papers and journals and all that other stuff, then you understand what it is that the computer's doing because it's really doing the exact same thing. It just looks
hmm
different,
yeah,
you know?
that's what I understand with the QuickBooks. I'm like, okay, it's just
Yeah,
asking me the questions and doing the entries for me, but then having to understand their system and like how that works. So you have to learn their system and enter
right.
it correctly so it works correctly. Then you're like, okay,
And like
I
the difference between Google Docs
yeah.
and Microsoft, Word, it's like
Mhm.
it's the same thing, but it's a little different, and that's how they get you. Every profession has that. I've taught my kids this that um uh you go into construction, okay? Leslie can understand this. When you go to do this particular thing, it has its own specific name. Now let's go over to ranching. We're going to do the same thing, but we're going to give it a different name because then if you try and go into construction, you won't understand it's the same thing. And
Yep.
they call that the barrier to enter. It's a whole system. As you can tell, this is a hot button for me.
Well, we're going to hot button away
Right.
and get started here. So anyway, it's a little after, so it's a minute or two after 7. So we've got Tim
Do our
is here,
thing.
and we've got Patty, and we've got
We've got
everybody else,
Brent, so we're good to go.
and we got Brent here. Absolutely, we're good to go. So it doesn't get better than that.
Okay,
Okay,
so are we ready to give it a shot here?
yeah, we are.
Okay, I'm going to start with some announcements. This is the first big one right here. I don't know if you can
You got to hold
tell.
it in front of you, absolutely in
Oh,
front of you.
cool.
You
Nice.
see, well, let me just a
The
minute. Let me
logo
see
right
if I
there.
can get it.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get a better thing on it. Okay, can you see this? This is what we have been waiting for months, guys. The Phobia Freedom Formula book, Blair's second book out there. So Blair Dunkley, Phobia Freedom Formula, it's on Amazon.
Mm.
And I want you all to know that and to take a look at it. Consider picking one up for yourself. I
Ordering it
haven't
right.
gotten too far into it, but we're very excited to have that out. So that's the biggest announcement. And then Blair has something called the Insider Notes, which is all the historical and ongoing notes for the Blair Dunkley experience from episode 318 forward. And these are notes that go much deeper into the material that we cover here. Every time we have a show, we do not get to everything on our notes or on our agenda, but the insider notes not only takes what we have that we didn't give you and gives you one step further and deeper than that. So my Model Mastery Secrets podcast is out too. Let's see, free to read on Amazon Kindle. I don't know if it's free to read on Amazon Kindle.
I'm
It
telling you,
is
it is.
now. It is actually, I
Yeah.
just got that changed earlier today.
Okay.
Okay,
So
so that
there's,
would be a yes then, free to read for.
yeah, but like for everybody, that's just on for the next 30 days. So
Okay,
it's
excellent.
available. It's just a short promotion just up there so that people can get a copy and go through it. That's it.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
Well,
Um,
didn't you ask for that if it was
oh
possible?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Well, I
it's a great thing. It's a
tried to
great
make
thing to
that
have.
happen.
But I also like my hard copies. I
I
like them
know.
to mark up and I like to be able to flip to where I know things are in the book. So
Yep.
um I don't know. Tim, do you have links that you can put up for the insider notes or for the My Model Mastery Secrets podcast?
Yeah, sure. Let me see
And
here.
then the complimentary profiling session on LinkedIn, where Blair will spend one-on-one time with you to profile you, which is a really interesting experience, help you see yourself in ways that you might not have in the past.
Yep.
So, Ashley, good to see you. I'm glad you're here.
You too. Thank you.
All right. So insider notes, there's a link in the chat, www.blairdunkly.com/BDE-insider-notes. So if there's a way to put the link into YouTube chat, Jane, that would be awesome. So introduction here. Tim, do you wanna take it?
Sure.
Well, actually, since we're sort of doing announcements first, I'm going to show you what I've been working on last weekend, and it's sort of cool. I think it's cool, at any rate. Let me just do this. There we go. And let me just share this. Hold it there. Yeah, there we go. And this is for people who are interested in finding out about profiling. I've got a free blueprint for people as well, so that if they are not profiling, sorry, the Phobia Freedom Formula, and they don't really want to buy the book necessarily. So here is a 12-page document that I put together on the weekend. And it is the Phobia Freedom Formula blueprint that I'm giving away when I'm on podcasts. So as a free gift for people. So that gives them a snapshot. And if they want the bigger deal, you can go get the book. And if you want the complete deal and get your phobia, fear, anxiety, PTSD, whatever fixed, then you sign up with me and I help people get rid of that. So, okay. So that's my that's it. I thought that design was rather cool. I like that piece. It looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with that, I'm done.
All right. Exciting stuff. And yes, and we actually have a exciting topic tonight. This is actually one that I don't think Blair's gone over before, and we're gonna turn some time over to Blair to share a new mind model tonight. So we've got some exciting stuff coming. So want to welcome everybody to the 360th episode of the Blair Dunkley Experience, where we discuss mind models. Your host for this evening is Blair Dunkley, the creator of the mind models. And I say we, because my wife will be here, Becky Graff, and I'm Tim Graff, your co-host and certified mind model method coaches, along with the amazing Patty McClurg. The Blair Dunkley Experience is Blair's free gift to you as an opportunity to learn, experience, and practice mind models in a safe, real-world environment. Mind models have helped Becky and I in every areas of our lives, not only with the business that we've been creating, but also resolving an 8-year issue in our marriage within just a few hours of going through Mind Model Coach. We've also navigated the grief, PTSD from a tragic accident where we lost both of our young daughters in 2020. Mind models allow us to be more effective and increase our capacity and our speed of recovery without traditional counseling. That is the power of these mind models. So with the new mind model tonight, we look forward to learning with you and welcome everyone again to the Blair Dunkley Experience. If you're on YouTube, we greatly appreciate it if you guys comment as we go throughout this, like and subscribe. We are here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Mountain and 9 Eastern. And with that, I believe we will turn it over to Blair.
Super. Well, guys, hey, great to be doing this. It's been a minute since I've done one of these. So it's cool. Holy, I'm out of practice. No, I'm actually not. I've been working with clients today and getting stuff. We're going to be going through some rather interesting, if not exciting stuff with clarity versus confusion. So, okay. So, I'm going to pick on a few people as I usually do. So, Leslie, what do you think clarity is all about?
Thank you. Um, Having sufficient data to be able to make logical um, a logical decision to move forward.
Okay. How do you get that data?
Asking
Because
questions.
I would personally argue that's the result of clarity, but that's not clarity itself. That's a byproduct of clarity.
Okay. Um, you asked how do we get clarity?
Yeah. How do you get clear?
By being curious,
And how do you
by
functionally?
uh, IBER.
IBER, sort of okay. Intention, behavior, evaluation, result, sort of.
Yes,
But what
that's
is the process connected directly to clarity? And you can call out, pick on somebody else to telephone, like
who,
get
what, how.
um, yes, but not quite specific enough yet. So
Okay.
you can drag somebody else into this torture that I'm doing to you.
I call on Shane.
Huh,
Perfect.
huh, huh. I was going to say exactly what Brent put in the chat was, excuse me, ask questions. So if you're curious, you ask questions, and Blair says not quite specific
No,
enough.
no, no. I didn't say not quite. He just said who, what,
Oh,
Who,
and
what,
how.
how.
Who, what,
I,
how.
I
Those
not,
are questions. But if you just ask the questions, sort of like, so what? Or sorry, if you just have the questions of who, what, how, and you don't ask them, does it matter?
no, if you don't do it, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't count. You're right. If you don't do it, it doesn't count. So that's sort of critical. So asking of the questions, not just knowing what the questions are. And that is a subtle but huge difference. Okay. Well, I know what to ask. I know. I know. But are you asking?
But don't you have to qualify the source of your answers?
No.
I could ask my neighbor's 2-year-old daughter, and they're not going to give me an answer that's going to clarify my question or
So
my.
hold it, time out. Who is doing the clarifying?
That's a good question. Who is doing clarifying?
Exactly. Is it your 2-year-old neighbor's daughter or is it you?
But I'm the one that's seeking clarity.
So, oh, I had fun. I had a blast this morning. Well, actually, early afternoon this morning with my client, a guy in Austria that I'm teaching, and he's really smart. And I go, well, they say that you cannot read the label from inside the jar, right? Okay, but what if you could? What if you could actually, not just metaphorically, but in your mind's eye, you can be both in the jar and outside of the jar in your mind simultaneously? Because you can be both associated and disassociated simultaneously. So that way you can be inside the jar and read the label on the outside of the jar. Yeah, okay, fine, fair ball. I know this is a stretch. He got it. Um, But let me see if I can sort of give you a version of that that can be applied to clarity and confusion. Okay, so clarity is a questioning process, correct? Everybody sees, okay, yeah, I need to ask questions. So you ask questions, but you ask questions of other people who are outside of you. But do you not question the validity of the information that you get from that person? Okay, Brent, you're nodding your head too big. You got to jump in here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when Jane was asking, like, well, you're asking questions. A 2-year-old, is the answer relevant or valid to where you're seeking? And that's the evaluation of the response. Is
Bingo.
this enough, or is where the source I'm coming is coming from, is it sufficient enough, or is it effective to get the answer from them? Maybe there's something there. There might be something, might not be, but it's there, there's some response. So there's a data. So you do have
Which
some
you
data.
can then do what with that adds to clarity? What can you do with that data?
You can compare and contrast that data.
Perfect. And what do you call that process of clarifying and contrasting?
Test.
Oh yeah.
No, it was a test that you ran. And so, yeah, you can test it up front. You can run a test to get a compare and contrast. So you can do
Evaluate the
right.
three, you know. Yeah.
3 E's, evaluate.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Okay. So sorry for my whatever it is where you charades at 3 E's.
No, I got to it when Shane was explaining, so I was waiting for him to see if he got to it. So I was like, oh, I got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's evaluate. And that's critical. So when you ask questions of somebody else, you may not know the answer. But remember when I talked, maybe I haven't done this in a long time, but the funny thing about asking questions is this, that you may not know the exact answer of the question that you asked because you're asking the question. But what you did by asking the question was set the boundaries of where that answer has to lie within. Okay? So questions define the parameters, the boundaries. So if you ask, I don't know how come it popped into my head, maybe because Christy sat down and I thought, oh, she's on a ranch and a horse popped into my head. If you said, okay, how do you ride a horse? And if I'm asking that of Christy, Christy's answer would likely be about horses and riding, correct? But it would not be about nuclear physics. That would be crazy. How do we know? It's not on topic, just simply simple as that. But do you notice how the question, the context of the question, defines the boundary so that we can test a little bit of the reasonableness of the answer? And if there is no reasonableness to the answer, then did they actually ask the question we asked? Or are they answering a question that we didn't ask, but they just felt compelled to answer for whatever reason? Okay. Okay.
Well, and it,
So show of hands, who's here completely lost? Anybody? Or did that make sense enough? Okay.
I think it
Well,
makes sense because some of us have heard it, have gone through a little bit more,
yeah,
like this piece. So it does make sense.
good.
But I could see from the outside, maybe get a little confused
What I saw
there.
is boundaries don't necessarily mean a box. It might set up an alleyway towards clarity.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that
Kind of like
alleyway, I frequently refer to them as curbs. So we keep it within the lane, like, it is in that lane of information. Is it generally heading towards something, or is it like just, off-roading, as it were, going in any direction you want? Well, off-roading, you don't exactly go off-roading with a horse, but one of the things you don't generally do is ride a horse on the road. At least not anymore, unless it's horsepower. And trucks have horsepower, so maybe there's something there.
So
But
Blair, if I missed
go
it,
for it.
maybe the response to be relevant to the question.
Thank you. And see, what I'm doing is demonstrating how a person's mind drifts into irrelevant information. Okay, not that I'm saying I'm senile or anything, but just saying, okay, sometimes your mind will drift.
Well, yeah, like you just ask somebody a question if they're not quite paying attention, like, "Hey, you want to go outside and for a walk?" They're like, "Yeah, I'm hungry. Let's go eat." Like, well, I was asking if you want to go for a walk. You're like, "I want to eat." They're
Yeah,
like, "Oh, that wasn't the question."
that's right, but it was a valid, more sort of a valid answer, because if you
Yeah,
don't have any food in the house and somebody
yeah,
wants to eat, then you have to go out to eat.
yeah.
And
So they didn't
maybe
say
there's
no. They
a
just said they want to do something else.
right, and maybe there's a place close enough, like my place where I live, just down the
Mhm.
street, there's like 5 restaurants.
Yeah. So
So
then, if I were to evaluate that, the relevance to it is closer to being relevant to the question. It's just not a clear response. Got to do a
it's
little bit.
next door.
Yeah, it's right there, but it's not way out like a left field. It's close. It's closer.
Perfect.
So like a
Shane,
spectrum on the responses, you can evaluate like, oh, that's somewhere way out left field, or it's close, so there might be a little more to it.
at least
So
it's in the ballpark.
yeah.
Yeah. Shane?
Well, when you said your example about reading the label from the inside and the outside, it kind of hit me something with my trading, because I still at times struggle to follow the rules, and I've really bared down. Zach has helped me a little bit, but recording yourself trading, and it sounds weird, but if you basically I know what I'm looking at, but if I actually talk as if I'm standing behind me, looking through me at the charts. So it is me, but it's me talking. So I'm reading the chart, but I'm also reading my mind. So I'm reading it from both sides. Is how I took your reading it from the both jar, and it really helps. It sounds so silly, but
It's
it
not.
really helps.
What causes the help? Because I know, and I've trained other traders to do some of this stuff, and I'm working on it
What
with myself.
it's I don't think I'm crazy. I might be crazy, but don't think I'm crazy. But it actually removes the voices from inside of my head, and I'm only listening to the one person behind me,
Exactly.
which
No,
is still
hold
me.
it. Not crazy at all. Time out. Okay, what you're doing is you're getting your brain to focus on both the internal and the external simultaneously, focusing on what you're seeing and seeing it happen while you're processing it and keeping the processing there, so you don't wind up getting caught up in all of your emotion. You're really giving your brain everything it needs to be able to focus on and pay attention to the external data points while managing your internal self simultaneously.
I mean, I had a rough day last week with the charts, just totally went off the rails. But since then, and like I said, you have voices, but it just literally
Okay,
it's,
two
oh, I
seconds.
saw that
When
one
you went
time.
off the rails, were you using this double process of you recording yourself and talking to yourself? Since you've
No,
actually started recording yourself, talking to yourself, and trading simultaneously, have you gone off the rails yet?
three sessions in a row and exponential gains in the account.
Bingo.
Exponential, like more than a guy expects.
Sure, absolutely. Okay.
It's I'm still trying to wrap my brain around why it works, but it
No, no,
really
no.
just
Stop right there. That's the why.
that's I did
Because
say why too.
you're
I'm
going to mess
rusty.
yourself up instead of what works. Just sticking
This
with what
works.
works. Okay. You also went through the next thing because it's clarity versus confusion.
Hmm.
And so this is a perfect segue into confusion. And I was going to question you guys through it, but this took a little longer than I thought. So I'm going to just jump in here and guide. Besides, um, Shane, you've given me a perfect segue. Okay, I mean perfect segue. So, do you feel confused about this process right now?
No,
Do you have clarity around the process?
absolutely.
So, how come you went and said, I don't know why it works?
Because
And then I
my
interrupted you.
brain works like a puzzle, and it wasn't working. Now this is working, so you got to figure out the bad word, why it's working.
No, what?
What is working?
Right. Now you got to go what's working.
What's working?
And it's that dual brain view of behind you and in front of you, or outside and inside simultaneously.
Hmm.
Okay. Because you need to be able to focus on multiple levels simultaneously, correct?
Correct.
And when you're trading, you also have to pay attention to multiple signals simultaneously, correct?
Correct. But this
So,
this process simplifies that mess.
well, let's put it this way. What if it doesn't exactly simplify it? What if it actually gives your brain enough focus to look at it multiple directions at the same point in time so that you have deeper focuses simultaneously, front and back, on the like behind you, talking about it, doing it as though you'd be coaching other people, but you're actually guiding yourself. Because the brain, well, as you're talking, that requires other parts of your brain to engage and generally forces all of that self doubt and self criticism out because you're talking through the process that you would normally talk through to somebody else, but now you're talking to yourself
And you saying it out loud,
because it needs to be recorded out in for real.
saying it out loud instead of just, well, I know what I'm doing, and if it breaks this line, it gives you that moment of, no, you said that once it does this, you're taking the trade. There's no question. Well, what if? No, you said it, so do it. And it's just the clarity. I'm
And
amazed
what has
how much
happened to the confusion?
it's left.
Correct. However, to do this, to try out this model, you had confusion before, correct?
Correct.
So there are two types of confusion. There is functional confusion and dysfunctional confusion. Okay?
No, I'm dysfunctional.
Yeah, because you did things to create to remove the dysfunctional confusion.
Mhm.
Okay, so the dysfunctional confusion was all of that second guessing. What you're actually doing is reinforcing your brain. You already know the patterns, correct? You know how that
Oh yeah.
chart's supposed to look. You know what it is. You know the signals. You know everything that you're supposed to do. But when you do it, you don't always follow the rules. You second guess yourself and go, and that blows you up. But when you talk to yourself as though you're coaching somebody else, Your brain is focused on just the steps because that talking to yourself, you've done it so much, you've created a functional clarity based on previously a functional confusion because you had to think how to help somebody else.
Mhm.
But when you kept your mouth shut, you had dysfunctional confusion because your brain would go all over the map as it had for a year plus prior to that.
Correct.
So what you've done is by habituating your pattern to your coaching, because I've heard from Leslie, because you've coached him a lot, how effective you are. Okay, and there you go. You got the thumb up right there. Boom. However, you weren't that effective with yourself. So now you're stating things out loud, recording yourself, so you can actually hold yourself to account, to be accountable to whom?
Christy,
Really?
to myself,
Right. Then to Christy, but primarily
but
to you.
yeah.
See, that's still a dysfunctional part where you put Christy in there before you. Okay, I know she's incredibly important to you. Don't get me wrong. Christy, I'm sorry. But we're gonna get him whoop-assing, making some good coin here, okay? So that the whole piece on this is being able to see a process flow, being able to do it. But if you don't have a model to double check yourself with, like if you weren't recording, what would happen?
I'd listen to one of the other voices in my head and blow the
Bingo.
account.
And now you got to make sure that your voice actually works as though it's being recorded to give to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
This is the way I'm going to trade from now on. This is it. Record every session, talk it out, go through it. Patty's been trying to get in here, Blair.
Yeah, I wanted to
Oh, sorry.
shift this out of trading because
Yes.
the same model that you're talking about with trading actually works for self-coaching. And one of the things with my models is we train people to self-coach so that you are not dependent on anyone else. What Shane is doing is he has discovered a model to self-coach himself with trading specifically. But you can self-coach with any regular problem or, difficulty that comes your way. You can coach yourself to cope and problem solve with the massive amounts of changes and the unexpected things that come up in our lives. And it's the same process, but using my models instead of a video camera allows us to look inside and outside at the same time. Is that fair, Blair?
Extremely. So build on that. You
Okay,
did a pretty good
so
job.
we're
Now
just going
let's
to take the 3 E's just because a lot of
perfect.
people
That's
know them
exactly where
and
I was going.
have the excuse me, the template for the 3 E's. So you find yourself in a difficult situation and the voices, the ones that Shane was talking about coming through the head, the voices of criticism or judgment or, self-accusation, doubt, all of those things start wrapping themselves around your head. And you say, okay, is this effective or ineffective? You're still aware of those voices. They don't stop just because you ask the question, but by asking the question and answering it, your brain begins to focus. Okay, this is not effective. And then you go to, am I external or internal? In this case, what Blair is discussing is a little bit of both, that internal awareness, but the external verification. I can say externally, my behavior based on whatever problem is coming up is ineffective. That's externally verifiable, but internally, what is my thinking doing that's leading to those behaviors? And
And
then I can go.
sorry, go. Can I just jump in there? Because like you just
Yes,
set this up
absolutely.
perfectly for this whole thing. So what you're doing is how many times do we wind up holding ourselves, thinking things are too difficult, too complicated for us to sort out? And yet you've just given a model there with the three E's and evaluating it in a way that gives us the ability to break down complicated into small steps.
Yes,
And those small steps means it's just complex, which is another mind model, complex versus complicated.
absolutely.
And we process that differently. So we're taking, all of this inside stuff, another way of viewing the inside and outside game. The inside game, it's complicated as hell. I don't understand it. And I feel dumb and stupid and yada, yada, yada. But then you break it down to what's working, what's not, what's externally verifiable and evaluated. And all of a sudden, that thing that was like pulling at spaghetti that have no ends on it, like on a plate, and you can't, it's just a mess, into, oh, it's just complicated. And there are strands here. And if I pull just a little longer, I'll pop out and get one clear piece of spaghetti.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so now it's just complicated. And how did we manage that? We managed that by asking ourselves questions again. Ask versus tell. And complicated lives in tell. We tell ourselves stories. And think about that, Shane, is how many stories were you telling yourself when your trading wasn't working?
Oh, a lot. That
Right.
looks like a trade. I'm telling myself that I've seen this before. That's going to be a trade. That's going to be a trade. They're not. But when you said in there that you said what's working, what's not working, and then I take it one more step. I don't know if anybody else does this, but I hear Becky's voice. What might you do about that? Every
There you
time
go.
I hear Becky's voice, what might you do about that?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we work with what's real and reality. Because if we're living in our reality, we don't get an external voice that asks us to confirm, even if it's internal, and even if Becky's not around. We go, okay, is that a valid question? And you go, yeah, it works. I need to get things down into chunks that are just complex, not complicated. I need to
Blair,
work on things that are not general but specific because I can change things that are specific. I can't change generalities.
Blair,
So Blair, could you
I got a
talk a
question.
little
Oh,
bit?
yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about shifting yourself out of story? So you're caught in a story, so you're asking questions and you're answering questions based on the context of your story that you've created. So
Sort of.
how do you
Okay.
shift? How do you shift yourself out of that?
Well, okay. First things first, I would argue that you generally ask one or two questions. And then you have this whole story that you tell. Generally yourself or others, anybody who will listen. And you go into this whole tell phase that creates, because the questions that you're asking is, why didn't this work for me? Okay. So, why can't I figure this stuff out? Why am I so stuck? Why is life not going the way that I want it to?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And all of a sudden, when you start answering those questions, you start creating a scenario-based story of what is going on in your life that causes it. And it's actually, I should correct myself, why the things that are going on in your life have caused your situation. So you come up with reasons, excuses, rationalizations, and justifications. Now, the interesting factor here is if you find reasons, you can find two types of reasons. Reasons that are what-based reasons or why-based reasons. If you're in the story and you get emotional about the whole thing, you're not creating a list of one or more reasons. You're creating this whole diatribe of excuses and justifications and rationalizations for your reasons, as opposed to saying, oh, that's what happened. That's the reason that this occurred, as opposed to saying, you know, why did this happen? The reason, not, the reason that it happened was story, all this other stuff, which is all past tense and tends to project into the future. So you put yourself into a past future loop. Now you're stuck. Now you can't change. Now it's not permitted. And I mean literally, it's life will not let you change because your brain is stuck in a past future loop until you get into the present. The only place that you can make change happen is in the present. Okay. Now, either Jane, you're nodding at something else and smiling, or agreeing with me and smiling.
I was laughing at Shane's thing, leaving the crap you tell yourself in your story.
Yeah.
Where I was asking the question, when we want to be, at one time you'd said something about one of the things as humans, we want to be understood. So when we're creating our story, it's because we're trying to understand ourselves.
Bingo.
So we create this thing internally, and what's on the outside is, or what the external part is it's a reflection of our internal turmoil, or
We are not even quite, I wouldn't use the word reflecting it. I would use the word projecting.
projecting our internal confusion.
Correct. And what we project, we think we see, and we need people around us to believe our story. And when they do, we feel in alignment. And when they don't, we think they're lying or they don't understand. Now, if it's an internal view of the world, we're in that jar. But we think that jar is the entire world. But we're right in our own mind. And that jar is our own mind. That's how come it's important to be able to get outside the jar and see how other people see us, see the possibilities of thinking separately. So we have to ask questions. And just the mind model, ASK, assumptions stop knowing. Assumptions keep us in the jar. If we don't test something that may appear, we think might be crazy in somebody else's mind, like Shane talking to himself while he trades, all of a sudden, he's getting very real results. And those aren't fake. That's real cash. Okay? Externally verifiable. Now, all of a sudden, it's not very crazy that he talks to himself, but he's got real world results. But if he just thought, I'm talking to myself, I need to talk to myself out loud while I'm trading, that sounds crazy. But when you break it down with the principles of what's happening in your brain, it's not. Okay, so Tim, Becky, I'd love you guys to jump in here.
I just had a thought with what you were talking about just a second ago, Blair. If you're talking to yourself, it's not crazy. I found that I'm a verbal processor. We were actually talking about this earlier. having some tech gremlins on my computer earlier, and Becky happened to be on a work call, and so I couldn't verbalize what was going on. And I noticed that as I was unable to verbalize for, not messing her call up, it was actually building the emotion internally. Like I was over there it was like this steam pot just ready to burst.
Yep.
And then as soon as she got off the call, I had an opportunity to kind of talk through the process of, figuring out what was going on with my computer. If I click here and then I go here, and she just kind of looks at me and she's like, it's interesting to see the red come down in your face as you're talking now. And, it's interesting how, as I was verbalizing and externalizing what I was doing, even though it was still me doing it, but I was able to externalize what was going on internally. It just brought that pressure, released it. So anyway, that's what I was thinking when you were talking through that is, I've for myself, I've learned that I'm a verbal processor, and externalizing things, especially as I'm a little frustrated and those emotions build internally, it really helps to bring that down.
And it was interesting to be in the adjacent area space and to feel the emotional charge, if you will.
Yep.
And the moment that he got clarity, confusion, this is not working, and all the things, and the volcano went,
Yep.
okay. The moment he had clarity, I'm like, so it's interesting listening to you, how over there. That's all I said. And he's like, I just realized I'm a verbal processor. Okay. And then we were able to talk through it. So the specificity, the general overwhelm, the general sense of confusion, angst, overwhelm, all the things. When clarity started to come in, we started to name and label that specificity, as Patty was talking about, being able to self-coach through evaluation. Am I in evaluation or judgment about what's going on? Like, is what I'm doing effective or ineffective? Do I have, Shane, a process that's working for me, or do I need to create a process that is effective? So speaking to yourself might sound crazy. However, if it is a very tactical move for you to be able to put yourself in a headspace, time and space disassociation slightly, to be able to teach in that space, you show up differently. You behave differently because of how your lens is on what you're doing. And this all comes down to effectiveness. Yes, Blair.
You use your brain physiologically differently because when you are talking, you're using the psychomotor part of your brain, which is right next to the prefrontal cortex. So, and it's expressing, you're going to be expressive and getting things out that are minor emotions so that they don't build. So now you're venting structurally by talking out loud like you would with somebody else, but you're now being highly functional, not crazy.
And Blair, this ties back to us saying, like, words are not semantic internally nor externally because of the power that they hold. So just how important is it for us to watch how we're speaking to ourselves?
Every conversation, all three conversations with my virtual assistant Sent this morning, with my first client Sev, with my next client Reza, like thumping and ticking my way through their language and having them test, not make like us listening to their language closely and figuring out, asking questions if what they're saying is what they meant. Every time I did that, the clarity that they got, because they thought that they were saying it the way that they meant it, but they were just saying it because that's their habit pattern of saying it that way. But once you clarified or questioned, once I questioned their language, how they said it, they didn't mean what they said. And when they rectified it, every time, all the pressure, all the baggage that was with that left. It was like not even quite popping a balloon, but it was like getting a release valve on a pressure cooker. And
I think
Tim, you were doing the same thing.
Yep.
You couldn't do it because you couldn't talk. Then all of a sudden, release valve.
Well, in the phrase, I don't know, for me, that holds that same level of emotional weight. Like when I say the phrase, I don't know, I literally feel it build. And so for me, one of my tricks for myself is, but what if I did? Right? I have to put out the sides because what if I did opens up possibility. It allows for fluidity to happen, it allows the emotions um to come down and also provides access to resourcefulness. Now I'm seeking, but what if I did? Well, what if I did means that I can start asking more effective questions of myself and or others to get out of that confused, paralyzed state of, well, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I'm confused, I don't know what to do next, deer in the headlights, versus resourcefulness and traction moving forward. And I loved how you've talked about before, like the two pieces of confusion, one being functional and the other one being dysfunctional.
Correct.
This, when we were prepping this, I loved going into the functional confusion. Um, a lot of times, as just as human beings, we look at, these mind models and we think, okay, clarity good,
Confusion bad.
confusion bad. We have that compare and contrast. The judgment comes in, and it's just baby out with the bathwater, so to speak.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and I love this spin on it. Actually, as we dove into confusion and functional confusion, I actually found for myself that I love confusion. Because what confusion actually is it's that gap, it's that opportunity for, it's that gap of information, it's that piece I don't have, and that's that moment where I can learn something, or I can pivot into something that is effective, not ineffective. As Becky was talking about the I don't know, if we just stay in that place of I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, and that emotional build, that confusion, that's going in an ineffective direction. However, if we start asking ourselves questions, where am I? What might I do? It's a gap in information, an opportunity for us to shift into an effective state. We end up learning something.
Just add one word, yet. I don't know. Yet.
Yeah. Yet.
Okay. Sorry.
No, that's a fantastic add in that it doesn't take a lot to shift. Sometimes we make it way too complicated in our
Yes.
brain, human beings, versus keeping it simple. And one word, I don't know yet. So if I find myself in that space, how might I shift? What might I do differently? Knowing what I now know, Shane, what might I do? There's where the resourcefulness comes in. And
Blaine, bleh. I'm combining Blair and Shane, smushing. Blair has shared many times that when we create, when our minds are learning something new, and it's creating that new ganglia and those new pathways, we have to be confused first. There is that level of confusion, and I've heard him say many times, if you have a headache after learning something, it's a great thing. It means that your brain is creating a new pathway. There's that level of confusion that comes first, because your brain, instead of going those normal habituated patterns that it always is actually pivoting. It's creating new ganglia. And so confusion really is an opportunity for us to learn, for an opportunity for us to grow that new ganglia, and to change, to shift. And I just, when you look
I want
at,
to build on that. I want to
please.
make it even more concrete.
Yeah.
Okay. Every emotion in our body exists in chemical form. And those chemicals are called neuropeptides. Okay? That's just science fact. Okay? Neuroscience fact, to be specific. However, the sensation, the emotional feel, like I feel confused, that grouping of neuropeptides has had science applied to it a few decades ago. And they got that chemical of confusion, put those neuropeptides in a petri dish with ganglia, with neurons growing, and they grew new connections. Okay. When they didn't put that grouping of neuropeptides in there, the brain didn't grow. Those brain cells did not grow. They could literally see it. So you need to be confused to some degree to grow new ganglia in your brain to actually learn and create new neural pathways.
And Blair, the what you just described, for me, I feel a sense of curiosity in that space. So if I'm confused, I'm curious about what I'm confused about, what's not making sense. There's a level of seeking.
However, is that not functional curiosity? Sorry, confusion? Is that
It is.
not functional confusion?
So as you were describing, like we took these groupings of neuropeptides, we put them in a petri dish, and we actually show that the brain grows. It goes completely against the typical assumptions that people make when confused, because confusion doesn't feel comfortable because our brains like certainty. We like to know things, but it limits us so much. And one of the things that mind models is so powerful with is being able to put names and language to what is in our world so that we can create our own pathways, create new neural connections if we need to, and we get to choose. We get to choose whether when we're confused, we run away and hide under a blanket because it's yucky and scary and all the things, or we get to choose to engage differently from a different lens to get traction. And those meanings to the words like confusion, if we have unintentionally or unconsciously named and labeled confusion with discomfort and bad and wrong, we're going to behave that way.
Exactly.
Versus being able to become more aware, like there is functional confusion as a powerhouse because it is the fodder for curiosity and resourcefulness and all those things. We can add one simple word, I don't know yet, to be able to tap into that. We are fully in the driver's seat if we choose to be.
Bingo. That's the key point, is if we choose to be, because the dysfunctional curiosity is confusion. Dysfunctional confusion is a confusion without adding curiosity. So that is one of those emotions that is there when we are functionally confused. We're looking, we're seeking. By the way, even when we're dysfunctionally confused, our survival instincts will help us, but slower. Okay, it takes more repetitions to be confused longer and whatnot, but we'll get there, even with the dysfunctional confusion. Okay, however, functional confusion is the curiosity, is the looking for possibilities as opposed to running away from.
So functional confusion leads to clarity.
Rapidly. Dysfunctional clarity or dysfunctional confusion can eventually lead to dysfunctional certainty.
That would be a story that you're locked into that is now evolved into a belief system that
Bingo.
now is life. And you are literally, one of the things that was shared to us, like when we're under emotional load and things start happening, that like resentment. I see what you're talking about, like that dysfunctional confusion leading into a coloring a belief system around your world, leading into resentment would be extremely challenging to or to rewire because of how you've habituated most things in your life because of that lens that you're living in.
Because it's somebody else's fault. Because this was done to you.
Self-other situation, and you've totally locked yourself away. Right.
That's
And you're starting to build a nice big brick wall with like steel beams between you and others in situations, and you're going to live your own narrative on your side and be like, ain't nobody going to take this wall down because I am right in my own world and there's nobody that's going to get through to me. Very challenging place. And so being aware of how we're interacting with our feelings and emotions, understanding the chemical peptides and how they work with ourselves, each one of us have our own words that we use. And I'm just curious, like, how might we, with our awarenesses, start reprogramming the way that we behave, the way that we interface with how we think? How are we giving ourselves times out with self-coaching? Is this effective or ineffective for me right now? What might I do differently? So that we can start adding more yets into I don't know or other areas of our life. Because I know for me personally, when I first started learning the mind models, confusion was a bad thing. It was like, I don't like it. I don't like being confused. And when I heard Blair talk about, well, actually, you must be confused to actually learn, that was the light bulb for me. And I had to reframe every single time I was feeling nervous, upset, scared, whatever the words were, I had to start for myself creating an opposite question. I can't do that, but what if I could? So that I didn't get locked into a potentially ineffective, dysfunctional, confused state, and instead build resourcefulness.
Bingo. And resiliency.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
And this is one of the things that after we lost our girls, going back to the canyon, a lot of people, well, I can't go back to the canyon. This is all the things, all the story. But what if I can? And one of the things that we had to take a look at is the canyon itself was not, at fault that day. The storm wasn't at fault. Like to say that we can't go back to a certain place because of one event or one thing that just the canyon, that's how it was created, is by all these natural disasters and things like that. And we have a lot of memories there of things that were wonderful. And so just taking a look at what if we can on the other side of you know because I hear so many people talk about how they can't do this and they can't do that because of a certain thing happening. um and they're shutting down in that dysfunctional place instead of what if you can, and looking at the facts and what is actually real, and being able to move forward and asking questions.
Exactly.
And I know that we need to get into wrap up here pretty
We
quick.
do. Thank you. That's right.
I was going to say, but I wanted to pose 3 questions kind of as a takeaway for you guys to maybe take with you and journal over the week, thinking about the topic of confusion and clarity and how it might show up in your world. Um, just to maybe find a little bit more understanding for yourself about how you're processing. So first question is what do you believe about yourself when you are confused? So maybe taking a look at it and assessing what do I believe about confusion? Is it scary, wrong, and bad? Do I find myself tipping into that territory? If so, what are some things that you might choose to do differently based on our conversation tonight to help build a process that is more functional confusion versus dysfunctional? The second one is more of a deeper one is how does confusion make you feel about yourself? Like when you feel confused, what's the narrative? What's the story? Am I dumb, bad, stupid, and all the things? Or is it at a first, like, is this an opportunity for me to learn? So those kind of go hand in hand. But I really am curious as you guys take those away tonight, how that might open your awareness to different areas of your life and how you might behave differently to have a more effective relationship with confusion
Right.
and be able to
I
get
would like to do one other question, if you
Okay.
don't mind.
Yep.
What role does curiosity play when you are confused?
Okay.
Like, I really would like you to pay attention to that question at the end of the day. Because a lot of time when we are confused, we slide into feeling depressed, afraid, uncertain, less than capable. But are those true, or are those just emotions that we're perceiving in this moment? Because we don't live that permanently. We are only there temporarily. And life is filled with moments. And it's how we manage those moments in our lives that determine whether or not we're having a really good life or a not so good life in this moment. So,
Awesome. Thank you, Blair. And with that, Patty, when you're ready, would you mind taking us out to wrap up, please?
Sure, I would love to. I really appreciate bringing back Awareness Notice because this particular program is part of our stack that started with Awareness Notice process understanding. Confusion is part of the process. It's
Yeah.
part of the process of learning. So when we talk about that, you can hear through different people how Shane got understanding regarding trading when he worked through the internal, external parts of confusion. And our next adventure along this line is pivoting. So these all work together in such a beautiful way. Let's see. Ashley, you're familiar with our wrap-up process? Are you willing to participate in wrap-up tonight?
Yeah, for sure.
Really like to hear what you're taking away from this, because we haven't had much time to engage people. So I'd like to know what you're taking away from this and how effective was this for you tonight?
Yeah, so tonight for me was a 9. I actually have a couple of questions, but I'm going to save them, and it works out perfectly. I don't know if Blair mentioned because I was late at the beginning, but me and Blair are doing a YouTube podcast. So it is on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and it's called Mind Model Mastery Secrets. And from now on, moving forward, starting this Thursday, we're going to piggyback off of the Blair Dunkley experience. So whatever we talk about on Tuesday night, we're going to then do a podcast that will be launched on Thursday night. So I have a few questions, and they're all gonna go straight to that podcast. So
That's a
it
great
works out
place to put them.
wonderfully.
That sounds like a wonderful launching pad.
Yes, yeah. So we will be doing podcasts every Monday and every Thursday. Monday is going to be whatever we feel is a good topic, and then every Thursday will be a piggyback off of the Blair Dunkley experience. So for me, I enjoy this conversation because I love learning. I love understanding how the brain works. I've also had experience with trading, so I just really enjoy the conversation, and I'm excited to ask some more questions tomorrow.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you.
Christy, it is wonderful to have you back. We have missed you. Would you like to participate in wrap up tonight?
Yes, and I've missed all of you as well. 9.5 for me. Blair, love seeing your enthusiasm and your passion and all of the excitement. I see it all the time, but today it just really shined. One of the things that you said that really, really stood out to me is questions define the boundaries. And that really, I see that in so many different areas as far as it allows like my questions to direct the conversation possibly, to know if I'm confused about something or maybe they're confused about something and how to, like what Brent was saying earlier about, you ask them if they want to do something, but then they said they're hungry. So somebody's confused about where we're at kind of thing. So that's how and the stuck in the jar, I heard that too, as if you don't get out of the jar, then you suffocate. And I've been stuck in the jar before. So being able to have those clarity of where I'm at and what process I need to move forward with that. I'm listening to Shane talk a lot about his process of talking out loud. I also saw that as it allows, and I'm just using him as an example, but I've seen him be able to use that to take ownership and accountability for himself in that, and get rid of his excuses and see that in a different area. I love Becky's questions. I love the I don't know how, but what if I did? And then I also love, Blair, how you added the I don't know yet. I thought that was really amazing too. And just getting clear on what I'm confused about is that this is just allowed me to see so many things with so many things. So yeah, really, really great and amazing. And I love the questions to have to ask myself to bring back for next week. So, and Ashley, I love the podcast thing on Thursday to follow up with here. That's going to be awesome to listen to too. So excited. Glad to be back. Anyway, love you all. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's so good to have you back. Tim and Becky posted the 3 questions that they would like you to take a look at this coming week, the awareness notice sort of questions in the chat. Just to read them one more time for the people on YouTube. What do you believe about yourself when you are confused? How does confusion make you feel about yourself? And what role does curiosity play when you are confused? So, Leslie, would you like to participate and wrap up tonight?
Certainly, thank you. It's a 10 for me tonight. I've gotten so much out of the conversation this evening. Patty, when you said we transition out of trading into other aspects of coaching yourself to cope and process, that was huge for me. Thank you.
You are welcome. I'm glad it was meaningful to you. Okay, let's see. Jane, would you like to participate in wrap up?
Oops, was already exposed. I mean, yeah, unmuted. I'm gonna agree with Leslie on that. It was a 10 for me tonight, but I will have to rewatch the episode so that I can get all the parts that I didn't. I don't want to say understand. I look at it as
Maybe they confused you, Jane.
well, no, it's not confused. It's just it's more of a learning is a building process.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I've kind of got the bones going here, but in order to add the flesh and it to it, I need to hear it
Yes.
again.
Yes,
I'm
layer your
not-
understanding.
Yeah, it will give me clarity.
So you don't have to be confused.
Well, and I did, and I wrote, I actually wrote in my fun little calligraphy stuff, functional confusion to post, because one of the things that I learned by coming onto the Blair Dunkley experience originally back was when you explained that thing about the ganglia and stuff.
Right.
And instead of being in judgment, man, I am so stupid because I'm confused, went to, hey, if I'm confused means I'm building my brain here, and I'm I'm getting smarter. And so it was so that whole bit made me excited that functional confusion is a cool thing. And I appreciate Shane opening up and being vulnerable, because it was a great example for me in what we were learning tonight, in tying it all together, because what we saw as a conclusion was his verbalizing his process took him out of the internal and made it external for himself.
Yep.
And we learned from Blair that it's a good thing to talk to yourself, because then it also clarifies where we need to go. And I wrote in the comments that and I'm trying to remember what it was I wrote, because I've thought of a lot of things since then. Talking to yourself out loud. So I said it makes you accountable to yourself.
Yep.
And it makes your accountability to effectiveness. So it tied, all the different mind models and bringing them all together, and it was like, yeah, as you can see, my enthusiasm.
By the way, talking to yourself gives you an additional way to reinforce information that you're processing in your brain, because you're using multiple, at least 2 more areas. Because as you're talking out loud, you have to verbalize it specifically, not generally that it's not like an idea in your head. It becomes a thought. That thought then is verbalized, and you're utilizing this part of your brain up here, because this is your it's the prefrontal lobe, and it is
Motor
the
cortex.
The
The motor cortex.
motor cortex, thank you. That's what I was trying to dig out. The motor cortex has to be utilized to make your mouth move. Okay, and so
It's not
you're
an empty
actually
space in there.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, tonight. I mean, I haven't done a 10 in a long time, but tonight was definitely a 10. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome.
You are welcome. Thank you. Let's see. Shane, would you like to participate tonight in wrap up?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'll continue on that 10 train. Yeah, brought a lot of clarity amidst my confusion tonight. And it's so reassuring that these mind models, as you stack them together, and what works for one person might not work for the other person, but how they all stack together and bring yourself to where you can grow, where you can just literally get out of that stuck state. When Blair was talking about the reasons, excuses, rationalizations, and justifications, I wrote that all out, and then those are all why. And if you're stuck in that why loop, you're not using your confusion to get clarity. You're just telling yourself BS stories, I guess. But no, lots of notes. Brent's response is relevant to the question. Jane was asking about the 2-year-old neighbor, but I mean, the bathroom scale and a toddler are the only two things that are brutally honest. So with that, I'll end there. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's great. Brent, would you like to participate tonight in the wrap up?
Yes. That's funny, Shane. That's funny. Um, yeah, so the takeaways for me was the functional and dysfunctional confusion. Seeing those two and where they're at. I know you could see putting a label to it, analyzing being confused, but to be effective confused, you're seeking clarity, asking questions rather than being in the why state. But that differentiation between the two and to identify them separately. And then adding the complex versus complicated in there too. Yeah, with those where that lies to be simple, steps oriented, or be complicated where you're all jumbled up and there's not really being able to get to understanding. So seeing that, that's where I used to, seeing things different like that. That's where I remember I used to be that way, seeing things as complicated instead of complex. So that was great to tie those together. So this for me, I would give it I give it an 8 for me.
Mhm.
There was something Jane brought up. I had a question, but I didn't jot it down. I forgot it. So, but I look forward to the podcast as well. That looks very interesting. I like that, covering questions from
Yeah,
Tuesdays and then just,
yes, tying Thursday
moving
to
forward.
Tuesday, I
Yeah.
think is going to be very effective.
Yeah.
So, okay, Shannon, would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
Can you hear me? I'm a little farther away than I normally am.
Can hear you.
Okay, cool. Really interesting. I found the more we got into it, starting to tease out the differences between functional and dysfunctional confusion to be really, really enlightening. There's a lot of that just is stereotyped. The word confusion is stereotyped culturally, and to be able to tease it apart and get more specific with it, it's kind of like when we talked about early on complex versus complicated. That was one of the early mind models that I learned, and it was so enlightening and illuminating to life to go through with that added lens. And I think this one is going to be the same. It's another just flashlight on illuminating our path and to be able to understand the role, Becky, just being able to say, what if I did? Or yeah, the simple little spin on it. And to be able, because there are some places like you were saying earlier, Blair, to not get sucked into the scenario and the why and things like that. And I can feel myself like go into those places sometimes. And I'm just like, okay, stop. I may not have the answers, but I know that that is a particular gravitational force I don't need to get sucked into right now. Let's go over here. And I may not, it's okay not to know. I can just do this direction. But to be able to take that deeper, it's just a simple, it was a simple pivot, but to actually take my self coaching a little bit deeper and ask some more specific questions in those moments is going to be really, really fun. It's been, for me, it was a light bulb moment to equate some of the information about being confused and translating that to my work at the studio. So one of my goals was to just start thinking about Pilates again and to start thinking about teaching. And I have a month to go. I'm not back to work yet, but one of my fears is that I'm not going to remember how to do my job when I go back to work. Because I worked so hard, like nonstop for the last 3 years and poured everything I had into that. And I was just starting to get some traction. And today I went in and had my first session with a coworker just to try and help rebuild myself. And a lot of it, I wasn't confused mentally because I understood what she was asking me to do because I teach that to people, but my body was confused. And in terms of some of the breath and just even being able to try and send my breath down into my belly. I've been doing a lot of chest breathing and rib cage flaring because it's uncomfortable to breathe down into my belly right now. But to begin to fire up your core and the muscles in your pelvis and different things. And so to face some of those moments that it's a little bit of fear and confusion in the body. And to be able, and when we got into the dysfunctional confusion is letting that fear win, and it's letting those things hold you stuck, and to not ask the questions and to not keep going and to use the functional confusion. My body is relearning something. I remember what it feels like to be strong. I remember what it feels like to do these things. And it might never feel the same as it did before. It might feel different, but I can still find my way back. And the same thing when you're confused either mentally or in your body and trying to rebuild any part of your life where a sensation is different, it is scary. And to be able to face that confusion, it was a great parallel for me because I remembered that as long as I'm okay being confused, I'll be able to be a good teacher because I can share my experiences because I'm not unwilling to go there. You know what I mean? The moment you're not willing to go there, that's the moment when I have to be afraid of not being an effective teacher. And so I just, it was really helpful in just calming that part of my brain down because I can still think about the concepts and the principles. And when I'm working to rebuild, that will go for any number of things in the future. The questions at the end to journal and think about, really effective. But the facing it, how we manage it, who we're allowing in the driver's seat, do we want these things to take control, the dysfunctional side of it, or do we want to create some function, whatever area that is in our life, our brains, our bodies, our work, our play, any part of it all. So lots and lots more notes. This was a solid 9.5 for me tonight. And so yes, thank you everybody. That was great.
Thank you, Shannon. Becky, would you like to participate and wrap up?
I will. 9.45 for me. I loved being able to tease out the differences again. The duality of confusion. I think that's the thing that stuck out mainly for me is functional is curiosity and clarity versus dysfunctional, which is driving for certainty. And how do we play and how do we want to play between the two? I also took a ton of notes, lots of pondering questions and things like how we build from our awarenesses, how we choose to engage with the things that we notice, and really the power that comes from being able to identify, name and label and describe different aspects, which is what mind models provide access to, is clarity. it is a pathway to functional usage of confusion versus just being lost in a place where you feel helpless and overwhelmed with what you might not be able to do. Mind models be able to help you drive and focus and redirect, regrow the things that you want to have a life that's more in line with your vision that you have for it. And even when it may not look the way you thought it did, you can still find happiness and connection within that. So that's for me tonight.
Thank you. Tim?
Yeah, tonight was a 9.75. I really enjoy clarity versus confusion. I think this has become one of my favorite mind models, especially learning more about confusion specifically, because just the functional confusion and how, there's that gap. I'm confused. Okay, which direction do I want to go? You know, that pivot point, and I know we're going to get into the pivot post next week, which is exciting, and I'm looking forward to that one because that's a big part of this moving forward from that, that moment of confusion. But that just learning more about functional confusion and how it works with the brain, and the external self-talk, really love that too, because I find more and more that I am a verbal processor, and it really works for me just to, at first I was concerned that I sounded crazy talking to myself, and so I found not talking to myself. But the more I learn about the brain, the more I learn about the connection pieces, and actually verbalizing it helps the process move forward. And I've felt it as I'm talking it through. I find that it's so effective for me. And one big thing, probably my biggest takeaway tonight, is Blair, when you said yet, when you added yet. I happen to be married to a gal who loves questions, very effective questions, but I find myself more often than not going, I don't know. And then the emotion builds, and I'm like, but that yet, I think it gives that time and space. I don't know yet, may I have a moment? And just it creates that time and space for my brain and the overwhelm to come down and to be able to to engage with the question more effectively. So that was that phrase, I don't know, happens a lot. Now I have yet to add to it, so thank you, Blair. And the other thing I really appreciated tonight was the conversation with Shane, and that internal external view of being in the bottle, not in the bottle, being able to read the label, just talking through that, and the disassociation and how that works with the brain as well. It, very much like the yet, it just creates that time and space. It brings the information and allows that information, time and space to get in there so that the emotion doesn't overwhelm and build. So I just, those few nuggets I really appreciated tonight. And yeah, 975. So
Thanks,
thank you.
Tim. Blair, would you like to participate and wrap up tonight?
Absolutely. It was a blast and a half. I had a really good time tonight. I enjoyed presenting new material. I love watching you guys present my stuff. It puts a different spin on it usually. Coming back to yet was something that was, I was reflecting on that earlier, and taking me back to the days at Life Skills College where I had a bunch of different students in the first couple of years of me becoming a coach. And I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And then I've, it was more than stumbled upon, but it was just coming up with and saying, what happens if you said, I don't know yet? And just like I have these three faces of different people that I said that to, and all of their faces, each one, not even in the same class, in three different classes, um, the instantaneous joy and confusion that was on, I can do that? Like, like somebody said, it's like I gave them permission. I just needed a freaking way to have them stop saying, I don't know. And I said, you can't say it unless you say, I don't know yet. And they'd say, I don't know. And then they'd say, yet. Like, hello, you're supposed to say yet. And then what it did to their brain was amazing. That was part of my lesson of we behave to the meanings of words. It just took something that was a complete shutdown into not shut down. And there didn't have to be an answer immediately because it was a yet. At some point down the line, I can figure this out. Shifts everything. I loved Shannon's thing, and man, can I relate to it with my body and hip surgery and everything I've been through, with cancer, with hip surgery. Um, you know, my body does not respond the way that it used to. It's also called aging, but we'll drop that one for a minute because there's a lot of things that I can do differently. Like I just found out that ricotta cheese of all things, if you've got muscle issues, ricotta cheese have between a quarter cup and a half a cup, and your muscles will grow back without any exercise. That's science. Okay. Another thing here is just a heaping teaspoon, like about a tablespoon and a half of um, cottage cheese before you go to bed. And the things that you find in the chemistry of that is casein. What does casein do? Well, if you get up frequently at night to go to the bathroom, you probably won't, or you'll go fewer times. Number one. Number two, it also because you have a full fat, not don't get a low fat cottage cheese, get a 2% at least, if not full fat. And the fat slows down the digestion of the cottage cheese when you're sleeping, and it produces all of the necessary amino acids to prevent, because your body, like once you're 30 or 35, I forget what maybe it's 45. I forget, I'm 70, so what the hell? I'm deep into this shit of my body eating itself, cannibalizing itself, and so I got to find a way to stop it. So I can come back from my surgery on my hip, and I got another one coming up sometime. And so I got to stay as healthy as I can. But dimes to dollars, I sleep more consistently, better, and through the night without needing to wake up. And so I have a more peaceful night. Like the three things that I take every night are a slice or two of turkey, and it's okay. Patty, it's the T one. I keep on forgetting. Tryptophan. Thank you. So it helps you sleep naturally. Tryptophan turns into the M1 that you buy on what's the one? The
Melatonin?
melatonin, right? Turns into melatonin. Melatonin helps you sleep, but tryptophan makes you tired and calms your brain down and gets your body set up to make the melatonin so you sleep. And then you've got the casein that's being produced by the cottage cheese, preventing muscle and all the amino acids to do its thing. Plus, you have a single, for me, it's my cocktail, which is just having magnesium at night to calm my brain down. Because get a good magnesium and it actually acts on your brain to give you a rest. And the last one I take in the morning to get myself up and happening, and that's methylene blue, which turns your pee blue, by the way. So I'll warn you in advance. However, it crosses the blood-brain barrier better than anything well, not better than anything, but it very highly effectively, and it is an electron donor. So electrons are being donated into your mitochondria in your brain, where your brain, well, your body and the rest of your body, by the way, it gives you. It's an electron donor. So the mitochondria, which is the inside part of every cell of your body, actually has electrons being given to it so you can produce ATP. And ATP is the chemical that gives you energy. So those are the four things that I'm doing. And personal testimonial, it's working remarkably well. So, and oh yeah, healing. Taking the methylene blue for healing, it has properties of being a antibiotic, pardon me, as well as everything else that I've mentioned. I had a skin condition. It's cleaning up. It's not clear yet, but it's way down from where it was. It electron donor for muscles, for reducing improving cognition. Like, it's got so many other things. I mean, it's crazy. So methylene blue. Yep.
So are we in a place to shift?
I am sorry. I'm talking. I'm rambling. So anyway,
No worries.
thank you very much for reminding me.
Okay.
Anyway, guys, it's been amazing. I enjoy this. Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Shane.
So for me tonight, it has been a 9.5. I loved the inside outside of the jar. I really enjoyed that. The word yet, very impactful. I took a ton of notes tonight. So this is one that I think we'll continue learning about for quite some time. And we're going to bridge from a Nanpu to the confusion to the pivot post.
Yep.
So we're going to follow that line through, and we hope to see you all next week. Becky, would you like to take us out?
I will. Thank you everyone for hanging out with us for the last 90 minutes. Again, clarity versus confusion. It was a great episode learning how our brain works and how we can actually harness the power of it and reframe things to get more effectiveness in our world. If you liked our topic tonight and you haven't got your hands on Blair's Insider Notes yet, definitely recommend that you do so. Again, it's from episode 318 onward, so there's a whole wealth of deeper dive. We cover a lot on these BDEs, but we can't go as deep as we have planned for. So if you want extra reading material, enhanced insights, make sure you do get your hands on that at blairdunkley.com/BDE-insider notes. It's $25 a month or $300 a year. Definitely well worth the investment for yourself to learn how to become more effective in your own world. And if you're out there on YouTube, please make sure that you're commenting and subscribing. We would love to be able to hear how you're experiencing the topics that we talk about. And then also, as was mentioned earlier, the Mind Model Mastery Secrets podcast on YouTube is available, youtube.com at Mind Model Mastery Secrets. It's also on Spotify and Apple. And there's going to be 2 episodes weekly. Mondays is going to be topic specific. Thursdays is going to dovetail and piggyback on what we chat about on Tuesday night. So make sure that you go there, sign up so you get notifications and tune in. Again, Blair has provided a wealth of opportunities for you to learn how mind models can radically transform your life. We look forward to seeing you next week. Again, we're here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Eastern. And also, Blair currently is doing a complimentary profiling session. So if that's something that you would like to do, a great opportunity to have a one-on-one call with Blair, learn things about yourself that you might not have known, and be able to have opportunities for growth brought out that you can get by going to linkedin.com, and then you can send him a message saying that you'd like a profile, and his profile is Blair Dunkley 1. So if you want access to that complimentary profiling session, make sure that you go to his LinkedIn page and snag that. And with that, you guys, thanks again for hanging out with us for the last 90 minutes. It's probably the most effective 90 minutes you can spend in your investment in yourself and your growth in your life. So make sure you tune in and join us next week, and we'll see you then. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Take care, everybody.